Hey, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the Evil Dungeon Masters channel here on YouTube and Spotify. Hopefully you're doing well out there. I know I am. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about an idea that's been rolling around in my head here. I was just sitting here thinking about monsters again. Happens a lot when you run a long enough time of games. You start having these weird ideas. You start seeing ideas in places that have nothing to do with anything but Dungeons and Dragons or a role-playing game that you're playing. This time it came from watching some random guy video. I can't remember his name, Urban Cursed or something like that. He was claiming he was hunting skinwalkers and hide behinds out in the woods somewhere. You know the type with the night vision camera, whispering into a microphone. Every time a twig snaps, it's suddenly paranormal activity. But the thing that stuck with me wasn't whether the guy was full of it. I never believed these videos anyway. What stuck with me was the behavior he described while running around into the woods. Because when you listen to those stories, the creature never acts like a normal monster. It doesn't rush you at all. It doesn't roar. It doesn't charge. It stalks. And it just, right there, that right there in my brain, it went straight to the gaming table. Now, the moment you say Skinwalker in a D&D context, someone in the comments will immediately say, why don't you just use a doppelganger, Vince? And sure, yeah, you can use a doppelganger, but on paper, doppelgangers impersonate people, they infiltrate, they deceive, they're already built around trickery. But a skinwalker, at least the way people describe them in the videos, works differently. A doppelganger wants access. A skinwalker wants isolation. The difference at the table is that. Because the doppelganger replaces someone in the group, it sneaks into town politics, it impersonates a noble, it slides into the party of adventurers and waits for the right moment. That's a social monster. A skinwalker is a hunting monster, and the hunt is the whole point of this monster. When you run it that way, the creature stops being a stat block and starts being pressure. That's the piece that I like. Pressure on players because a skinwalker doesn't appear in initiative order or on roll attacks. And yeah, okay, any monster can do that. What makes this thing interesting is that it is patient. It follows, it watches, it tests the edges of the party. And the worst part is the players probably won't even realize the hunt has started before it's too late. Picture the group moving through a forest trail. Maybe they're traveling between towns. Maybe they're exploring some ruined watchtower deep in the woods. Standard travel stuff for a D&D campaign. Nothing really unusual. The ranger checks for tracks, the cleric complains about the damn weather, the fighter just wants to get into the dungeon and slash something already. And somewhere out there in the tree lines, something is watching them. Not as a monster, as a deer, or maybe a wolf, or it could be a crow sitting on a dead branch. That's the trick. This thing can wear the shape of the forest animals and inherit their abilities. If it takes the shape of a wolf, it'll move like a wolf and act like a wolf. If it takes the shape of a hawk, it can circle overhead and watch the party from the sky. If it wants to stay hidden, it could just be a rabbit sitting quietly in the brush while the players just walk right past it and not even realize it. And the players will never think twice about it because why would they, right? Forests are always full of animals. That's where the game begins. Not combat, observation. The creature studies the group, who walks point, who hangs back, who wanders off to relieve themselves. Yeah, that happens sometimes. Who is curious, who is careless, who can run this across you can run this across several days of in-game travel, and the players will start noticing small things before they even see a monster at all. They'll probably notice the same crow appears more than once. A wolf howls but never approaches. A deer stands on the road staring at them longer than an animal normally would. Nothing aggressive, nothing threatening, just wrong enough to sit in the back of the players' minds. And players mostly hate that feeling. They start asking questions. Didn't we see that crow earlier? Why is that deer not running right away? Is something following us? And they keep looking behind them. Now here is where the evil side of design starts to show. Because the Skinwalker isn't looking to fight the whole group. It wants one person, one mistake, and one moment where someone gets separated. And players do that all the time when they're playing their characters. A thief goes scouting ahead because that's what they do. The ranger checks off the trail, checks these tracks off the trail. The wizard steps away from the campfire to read a scroll. That's their opening. And when the creature decides to act, it still doesn't reveal itself as a monster. It cheats. Maybe the wolf limps into view like it's wounded. Something easy prey for a fighter looking for fresh meat. Maybe the deer bolts down a narrow path that the ranger wants to track. Maybe that crow keeps cawing and leading someone deeper into the trees. A little bait. Just enough to pull someone away from the others. You don't even have to force it. Players will do most of the work themselves. I'll go check this out. Those 5 words have started more disasters at the table than any other trap or any monster you've ever written up. And once someone steps away from the group, for even just a second or a minute, the game changes. Because the moment they are alone, the animal shape drops and whatever the real form of the Skinwalker is comes out. Maybe it's something maybe it's something thin and tall with the wrong proportions, like a slender man or something. Maybe it has limbs bent wrong. Maybe the face looks like half the animal it just wore. Something that feels wrong in the player's imagination. But the attack still isn't the interesting part. The interesting part is what happens next. Because if the creature kills that character quickly, the hunt isn't over, it's just changed shape. Now the Skinwalker has something better than animal camouflage. It has a human face. Now think about what that means at the table, because the worst thing a Skinwalker can do is not kill a character, it can replace one. That's where this creature truly becomes nasty itself from a dungeon master perspective. Not because of the combat stats, not because of the claws or the teeth, or because suddenly the players can't trust what they're seeing anymore. It's just how it acts and works. Let's see. Okay, so let's say the thief wandered off the trail chasing that wounded deer that we talked about a few moments ago. 10 minutes later, he comes jogging back through the trees saying, "Oh, it got away." Seems normal, right? Maybe he complains about the mud. Maybe he makes a joke about the ranger losing the tracks. Maybe he asks if dinner is ready. Everything looks fine. Except it really isn't. Because that's not the thief anymore. And as you as a DM now have a problem to manage, because the player agency matters, you can't just take someone's character away from them and turn it into a monster without warning. That usually feels cheap. So the way I would run it is a little different. Instead of replacing the player outright, the Skinwalker impersonates them for a short amount of time, like a little bit of a window. Maybe the real thief is unconscious in the brush somewhere. Maybe he's tied up. Maybe he's bleeding out slowly. But for the next few minutes of table time, the Skinwalker walks into the camp wearing his face. This gives you some incredible, powerful role-playing at the table, to be honest. Conversation. The monster talks, and that's where it starts testing the party. It might say something maybe a little bit off, call someone by the wrong nickname, forget a detail from an earlier adventure they were on, ask strange questions. Where are we heading again? Who has the map? Which one of you carries the holy water? It's probing. It's learning. Looking for weaknesses the players might not catch right away. In fact, the best outcome is when they start to feel uneasy but can't prove why. Someone might say, "You're acting weird." The fake thief shrugs it off. "Long walk, I'm just tired." Now imagine this continuing throughout the night. The Skinwalker sitting near the campfire with the party, listening, waiting. Maybe it sits close enough to hear the wizard muttering over his spell book. Maybe it asks the clerics which road they're taking tomorrow. Maybe it laughs at an old joke the real thief would have already known and laughed at already and called lame. Again, nothing too dramatic right away. Just enough, just a quiet accumulation. And every exchange, the creature building a better version of the face it's wearing. If you run it correctly, the players will start slowly feeling paranoid. Not about the woods, about each other. This is the part where the monster becomes a psychological encounter instead of a combat encounter. You can run an entire hour of the table time like this without a single attack roll, just complete tension. And when the truth finally comes out, it should come out violently. Maybe the cleric casts a spell and the illusion drops. Maybe the real thief staggers back into the camp, bleeding. Maybe the Skinwalker just slips up and says something only the monster would kind of know. Whatever triggers it, the moment of revelation should be chaos. Weapons drawn, spells flying, players shouting questions across the table, and the creature, now exposed, finally attacks. But here's the thing about this creature. Even then, it shouldn't fight fairly. A Skinwalker that stands toe-to-toe with a full adventuring party is basically a dead creature. A dead monster, it's not going to bother. So when the real reveal happens, the creature should try to escape. Fast. Maybe it dives into the trees and becomes a wolf again. Maybe it scrambles up a trunk and shifts into a hawk and flies away. Maybe it disappears into the tall grass as a snake. The point is, the players now know something is hunting them, but they don't know where it is or what shape it's actually wearing. And the hunt begins all over again. This turns a simple travel segment into a whole mini adventure. Suddenly, every animal becomes suspicious as you look at them differently. Is that the Skinwalker? Is that the creature? Every rustling branch might be the creature circling them again. The players will start doing things they normally never do. They'll question every track. They'll kill animals just to be safe. They'll set traps around the camp. They'll cast detection spells constantly. And even then, they won't be sure, because the monster might not come back right away. A truly cruel Skinwalker will wait. Maybe it disappears for a full day, maybe two, long enough for the party to start relaxing just a little bit again. And then it slowly creeps back in. But not as the wolf this time, not as a deer. This time it comes back as a man walking down the forest road. A traveler. That's innocent, right? A hunter. Someone who claims he's lost. He waves politely when he sees the adventurers. "Evening, didn't expect to see anyone out here." And now the players are stuck with the worst question in the world. Is that a normal man? Or is that a thing that's been stalking them for 2 days? Whatever they decide, there should be consequences. Because if they trust him and they are wrong, the creature is already inside their camp. If they attack him and they are wrong, they just murdered a harmless traveler in the woods. They're supposed to be heroes, right? That's the kind of choice I like putting in front of players. Not because it's fair, but because it forces them to live with whatever they decide. And the more I thought about this idea, the more I realized something. This creature works best when the players never get a clear answer or a clean answer on anything at all. Most monsters in D&Ds are simple problems. You find them, you fight them, you take their treasure, and that's it. They're done. The players see the monster, they understand the threat, and they deal with that threat right there. The Skinwalker doesn't follow that pattern. It introduces doubt, and doubt is a poison at the gaming table in the best possible way. Once players suspect something like this exists in the forest, every future encounter becomes questionable to them. Every hunter they meet on the road might be a creature testing them again. Every animal staring at them just little too long might be watching from another shape. Who knows? Even if the party kills the thing eventually, the memory of it sticks around and lingers in the players' minds. Players remember that kind of monster. Not because of its hit points, not because of the tension that it doesn't create, because it creates so much tension that they'll remember that for as long as you possibly can. And it'll be stories they'll be telling around the table for a while. Now, I also started asking myself something while thinking this through. Does this creature even need to be killed for the adventure to work? Maybe not. Maybe the Skinwalker is territorial. Maybe it just wants the party out of its hunting grounds. Maybe it kills one character, toys with the rest for a few days, and disappears once they finally leave the forest. From the monster's perspective, that's a win. It protected its territory and fed. From the player's perspective, it becomes one of those stories they talk about years later. The forest with that thing that kept changing shapes, and the best part is the players might never completely be certain that they actually destroyed it at all. Maybe they burned a wolf with magic missiles and assumed that it was the creature. Maybe they killed a suspicious traveler on the road. Maybe they found a strange corpse in the woods that looked half human and half animal. Was it really that monster? Or was it just another shape it abandoned? You never confirm it. You never let them know. You just let it sit there in doubt. Because if the players think there's even a small chance that this thing is still out there, then every future trip through the wilderness becomes a little bit more uncomfortable for them. And honestly, that's what I enjoy most about monsters like this. They turn the environment into the enemy itself. The forest stops feeling safe, the road stops feeling safe, even animals stop feeling safe at this point. And that kind of pressure is far more interesting than any other random encounter table result. So, yeah, you could just use a doppelganger. People will tell you that in the comments, I guarantee. But a doppelganger walks into town and pretends to be the mayor. A Skinwalker follows you into the woods and waits for you to make one stupid decision. And if you run it right, by the time the players realize what is happening, one of them might already be gone. And something else might be sitting at the campfire wearing their face. That's how I run a Skinwalker, and that's how he differs from a doppelganger. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to comment. Subscribe to the channel. Trying to get up to 11,000 subs. Also, if you'd like to support my channel, you can go to patreon.com/StephenDM. I've been putting up my videos early for my patrons, as well as putting up my journal, which I do audio-wise, my DM journal, my thoughts. I put up the audio, and then I bullet point what I talked about inside that thing. It's kind of like a little podcast, but not really. But it's only for patrons, starting at $2 a month. Well, I'm going to head out. Keep original, keep it old school. Good night, and God bless everybody.